This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
I'd like to welcome everybody back to another episode of the TWSN Tailgate Show. As always, I am Matt Levine, your host, joined by Joshua Northcutt and our pretty much permanent guest-ish person, Bill Sparks. He's back, everybody. Bill's going to give us more insightful knowledge. He's going to be here pretty much every week, so that's awesome for us. We all know everyone likes Bill. Bill knows ball. That's been our motto here, even when Bill wasn't on the show. So we are so excited to be here with everybody. How are you guys doing this week? We had a fun weekend of college football. Some other news we will get into in a few minutes here too. But Josh, how are you doing today?
The baby is not as sick as what she was yesterday, so life is good. I did not get thrown up on today. I have no complaints. Bill,
I mean, I would think that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Bill, are you in the same category, or are you good?
I'm good. Hey, you know what? No one's thrown up on me yet. You know, after
Keyword
these picks today, the keyword is yet. After these picks, they might
make us throw up, though.
This is true.
I mean, they've been pretty bad lately, so.
Probably should tell people in the comments to have a poncho ready.
Yeah, have a poncho. You might be in the splash zone if you listen to Josh. So, you know, that's just my advice for the show. You know, Josh had this massive lead in our pick'em thing. I'm catching up, just saying. And I should have had another game, but he switched it to Miami last minute 2 weeks ago. Just saying. Should have had another game.
Hold on. Time out. I also let you switch now from Arizona State, Utah last week.
Okay, that was an injury. Injury.
It doesn't matter. I still let you switch.
Fine.
We didn't know.
We are even.
We're even now.
That's fine. We are even. That's okay. But we got some stuff we got to talk about here. But first, we got to go back to last week, just talking about some of the games that happened, and then we'll get into some of the big news that did happen that off the field a little bit. Josh, you want to talk about what happened? Any takeaways? I'll let you go first.
Takeaway is pretty much as simple as this, and it pains me to say this. Ohio State may be better than they were last year, and they are the best team in college football. That defense is unbelievable. It's got stars all over the field. In the beginning, everybody was talking about it. Maybe it was Styles. Maybe it was just Downs. But the pressure that this defense is getting, the secondary, I can't ever pronounce the cornerback's name right. It starts with an I. Last year, I believe he had the most PIs in college football, and now he's like a shutdown corner. Yeah. It is unbelievable how good this defense has gotten, and they still haven't taken the top off the ball yet, what Julian's saying. They're just doing dink and dunks, dropping it off to Bo Jackson in the run game. This team is very scary, and it pains me to say, but I have a very hard time believing anyone is going to be able to beat this team unless they have an awful day and somehow can dominate the trenches, which makes me believe possibly in one team, maybe two.
There is one team that's going to beat them, but we'll talk about that in a minute here. Bill, anything from last week that stood out to you? Because look, you obviously had the best record between all of us. You only had one loss. I had two. Josh was just poor last week. But yes, you know, every week, Bill, it's like you're going 5-1 in these picks. So what is the secret? What are you seeing, and what were some things that you saw last week that really just kind of stood out for you?
Listen, so the first thing that stood out for me, I don't often take victory laps, but I'm taking one.
Please do.
I said Indiana was going to go to Autzen, and they were going to punch Oregon in the mouth. They went there and punched Oregon in the mouth, and Oregon struggled to respond. So I will say this, Oregon is a very good football team. I will also say this, I am concerned about Oregon for who they play this week, because they are going cross-country to Piscataway, New Jersey to play Rutgers, who is a very physical football team, just like Indiana. You're also going across the country. You're going to have that time difference. So I am concerned about the Oregon Ducks. But I still think they beat Rutgers. I'm gonna say that. But if you're a Duck fan, the way the schedule lined up, you host Indiana and you get punched in the mouth, and now you have to go across the country to another physical team, you're concerned. We also have to have the conversation about Ole Miss. And that Ole Miss is, for all intents and purposes, overrated. The fact that you only beat Washington State by 3 and you struggled most of the day. If Washington State had just a little bit more firepower offensively, we would be looking at Ole Miss as another upset. If you are a Running Rebel fan, you are on upset watch the rest of the way. They're not quite fraud watch yet. They're not at fraud watch yet, but I think they could get there. I think this is a conversation that we have to have. But I agree with Josh, what he says on Ohio State. I think Ohio State is 1A. 1B is a team that we're going to talk about, Josh. I know you and I talked about it offline leading up to it. And I think 1B is going to give them a run for their money.
Yeah. I mean, I have 2 points. One of them kind of ties into what you were talking about a little bit, Bill. But first, I want to talk about Oklahoma and Texas, because that was one of the bigger games of the week, right? Yep. Did John Mateer make a mistake, you guys? Because he didn't look very good. He couldn't throw. Yeah, he moved around a little bit. He got some running lanes. Like, he was able to get some yards on the ground. But his hand, he couldn't throw the ball really. I feel like Oklahoma might have been better suited having their backup. Just at least having someone who's healthy. What did you guys see from this? And, I mean, Mateer's Heisman candidacy is kind of dead at this point. But what did you guys think of this?
On my side of it, it's cost Oklahoma the leeway of they had lost a game without John Mateer. So when that now goes into the committee is going to see John Mateer played that game. He threw 3 interceptions. Now will the conversation be had? Was he fully healthy? His first game back from injury? None of us know what happens behind closed doors. But I think it would have been a lot easier to say 23-6 Texas win without John Mateer, because then you have the what if John plays? Well, we know what happens if John plays. They lose. But I've got to say something. Arch Manning got his swag back. Don't let Texas hang around. Not with that defense. If they can get into the playoffs, even despite the 2 losses, what everybody needs to realize is one of those losses is non-conference. So they can still win the SEC if they win out. They get into this college football playoff, ain't nobody going to want to play that team.
And they have Georgia coming up in a couple weeks, I believe.
They got to go to Georgia, and then they get A&M at home. That's their 2 big games. But this was a statement game, in my opinion, more so for Texas. I was impressed with that defense standing the ground, and Arch just did enough to win. They didn't ask him to go out there and set the world on fire, which is what we've all been asking him and for Sark to do. What about you, Bill?
No, so I agree with you. I agree with both of you guys, but Matt, I'm going to take it one step further. Not only is John Mateer's Heisman candidacy dead, Oklahoma's chances at the CFP are dead in the water. You are talking about a death march of a schedule on the road to South Carolina, at home versus Ole Miss, even though they are fraud watch, they are still a talented team, on the road in Knoxville and in Tuscaloosa, at home against Missouri, who just played Alabama very well, and then at home against LSU. If you told me that they go 0-6 the rest of the way, I wouldn't blink. I just don't see a way where Oklahoma, without a healthy John Mateer and no run game, is going to be able to keep pace with some of these teams in the SEC. So right now, I said it on the very first show that I was on. I called it about Texas, Penn State, Clemson missing the CFP. I'm going to add to that. I'm going to say Oklahoma misses the college football playoff.
Yeah. It was a shocking game because it was kind of slow to start, right? Low scoring, field goals, defense. And then Texas just kind of took over. And we kind of saw the Texas team that we all have been expecting to see. Arch looked good. He was moving around a little bit. You know, their running game got going. That was the key. The second that running game got going, everything opened up for Texas. We've been saying this, that they need the running game, and it finally did something. But the other point I have here, Oregon, and I know you talked about this a little bit, Bill. Do we have to reassess them? I know you mentioned it a little bit because, look, their big win is against Penn State, right? We all know what Penn State is at this point, and it hurts me because I picked them to win the championship. But do we need to reassess the Ducks? Because Indiana, as you said, went in there, kicked them in the mouth. They didn't respond. I'm going to throw this over to Josh because we've already kind of heard from you, Bill, and then this is going to lead us into our next, segment here. But Josh, do we need to reassess the Ducks based off of this past weekend?
I believe so. That wasn't even a loss. They got beat, as Bill said. Indiana went in there and said, "We're taking over. We're sending a message," and they sent a message to me. I am done bashing IU. They are a football program, plain and simple. I wrote about it in my power rankings. They are a football school. They just locked up Signetti. Congratulations, Mark Cuban.
Yes.
You paid that salary up well. But as for Oregon, Bill talks about physical team on the road giving them problems. November 8th, boys, they go to Iowa. I don't think a 2-loss Oregon team gets in the playoffs this year. And they still got USC on their schedule, and they still got to go up to Seattle the week later. I think it's absolutely panic time, slow the brakes on Oregon. And that is crazy to say. But
it's because of the Penn State. It's because of Penn State. Let's be real. If Penn State had been what we thought Penn State would be, and then Oregon beat them, we wouldn't be talking about the Ducks. Because they just had a loss against a really good Indiana team, but they still went on the road and beat Penn State. But the fact that Penn State is now what Penn State is, that Oregon loss is kind of null and void. It's kind of similar to the Clemson win for LSU in a way. I think Clemson's a little bit better of a team than Penn State, but that's just me. It's kind of mind-boggling where we've gone in the last couple weeks. But speaking of Penn State, we had some news go down this week. James Franklin fired. I said it to Josh weeks ago that if they lost to UCLA, that man should have been fired. Now, I'm not going to say he should have been left on the tarmac, as other schools have done in the past, because that's just rude and disrespectful in my opinion. But James Franklin is gone after losing to Northwestern. Third straight loss for Penn State. Everything's going into the ground very quickly. Drew Allar's out for the year now. Penn State, what is Penn State at this point? Where do you guys see this team going, or this program? Because they have so much to offer. They have resources, they got facilities, they have the history, they got the name. They're a powerhouse in the Big Ten. Who are some of the fits that you guys have for the next coach? I'm going to go with you, Bill. I'm going to start with Bill.
So if you had told me before today, the biggest fit would have been Curt Signetti. Obviously, him re-signing that deal in Indiana takes him off the table. There are two big names. One I think is a 0.1% chance of happening, and one that I think is about a 90% chance of happening. The first one, the 0.1% chance, is Marcus Freeman. If you are Penn State and you have the Adidas backing, you are calling South Bend, you are dialing that 260 area code, and you are offering him the world. You want a $100 million contract? Done. You want a new facility? Done. You want the school named after you? Done. Whatever you got to do. But I don't think Marcus Freeman takes it. Where I think they're going to likely end up is with Matt Rule from Nebraska. And you look at the connection, obviously the AD connection from their time at Temple. You look at Matt Rule, knows the area very well. He's done well with rebuilding programs, and he went into Nebraska and won at a place that hadn't historically had success. So this is a guy you're now saying, hey, let's move up to Penn State. It's going to stay within the Big Ten. You're going to get an increase in facilities. You're going to get an increase in exposure. You're going to be able to get some better talent. They also do still have a need at quarterback. Could Raiola join Rule in Penn State? That is a conversation piece. But I think right now, I think those are the top two. Another sneaky name I will throw out there, but I think Penn State's going to be a little gun shy from it. Clark Lee from Vanderbilt. Because he's taught Vanderbilt very well, and he's turned it around. But is Penn State going to be gun shy and say, we just had a Vanderbilt coach come in here and was here for years? I don't think we want to go that way. They don't want the Vanderbilt PTSD.
I feel like Penn State needs to go big on this one. I saw something. I think it was more a rumor that they might call Brian Kelly. And honestly, I don't hate it. Even as an LSU fan, I don't hate it. I think Brian Kelly could find success in Penn State or at Penn State. Plus, quite frankly, if I can get rid of Brian Kelly from my life, I'd be okay with that. Like he's whatever. But before I give the one I think should take this, other than Brian Kelly, Josh, who are you going with? I want to see if you and I are on the same page, or if you're going a whole other route.
All right, so Bill already took the first one. The most obvious is Matthew Rule. The man played linebacker also at Penn State. I don't feel like Bill mentioned that, but he did. He played under Joe Pa. That's enough to say he understands. However, if you believe him, he was on Pat Mack today saying that he's not interested. He loves Nebraska, this and that. So I'm a little bit off on that. Now, I have seen these rumors, as our buddy Will mentioned, Eli Drinkowitz. There was a beat writer who wrote for Penn State that mentioned that he is potentially one of the top names. Not sure I really feel about that. Kind of just seems like a lateral move. The offense will get better, but how does the defense handle the Big Ten style things? We'll be waiting to see. But Patrick Kraft, as Bill mentioned, was the AD at Temple during Matt Rule's time. However, there's another head coach with Northeast ties and got a lot of credit for building a secondary down in Georgia, and now he's the head coach of Syracuse. Fran Brown needs to be on that list for this job. What he did at Syracuse alone last year, and James, my buddy James, I'm very, very sorry. He's a Syracuse grad. He's telling me not to bring the name up, but I have to because the ties are there with the AD. If it's not Matt Rule and Matt's like, hey, you have a guy, why not the guy who coached under Matt Rule at Temple? He got so much credit for that secondary that was built down in Georgia while he was the DB coach. He's considered one of the best recruiters in the nation. He said openly he wants to stay up in the Northeast. He's from the New Jersey area. Yeah, New Jersey, Pennsylvania is not like side by side and anything, but it's still similar. I think Fran Brown is the guy to watch when we talk possible outlandish, outside the box. And then the name that is coming up today, and I am all out on completely, do not go get Joe Brady. Do not do this. Do not do this. And apparently he might be the favorite for the job now. According to Nittany Sports News, posted, new favorite emerges, and it is Joe Brady. I am not on that, guys. It's nothing against Joe Brady. He was great down at LSU, obviously. He's done wonderful things up in Buffalo as a coordinator, even though his play calling has been a little bit questionable the last 2 weeks, forgetting how to run the ball. You know, the guy you paid a lot of money for. But I just want somebody who knows the college game well enough and has been in the college game. And that's why I think Fran Brown is the perfect hire and the guy who I'm going to write an article about and explain a little bit more detail.
I like it. I don't know. Fran Brown doesn't seem big enough for Penn State, in my opinion. I think, like, schematically, it works. I think he could do well. But I feel like it's the same thing that LSU had a couple years ago, where it's like you have this opening, you have this big powerhouse program, right? And you need a name that you can sell to your fan base. I mean, these fans have put up with James Franklin for all these years, not winning the big game, not being able to do this yet. They've had teams that have been very good, right? I'm going to throw a name out here. This might be an easy one. This might be easy, but you probably know you might know where I'm going with this. But what about Nick Saban? There's all the rumors that he's been talking about coming back. I know his daughter was like, yeah, he's not coming back. That man loves football. I like Nick Saban at Penn State. I really do.
Well, no, if he was willing to come back, yeah, that's the guy you instantly.
That's what I'm saying. But here's my thing. As Bill always says, you make him say no. Call Nick Saban right now. They should be on the phone with Nick Saban right now. Get him to say no, because Nick Saban, with the resources that Penn State has, the name, everything, they could dominate the Big Ten for a few years and restore that program. That's just me. What do you guys think about that? Or am I going completely crazy here?
The one big benefit to Nick Saban that people aren't talking about as much is whoever Penn State hires, it cannot be a coach that's coaching in the CFP. With the new transfer window being shrunk into just one window, you're now looking at, if you've got a coach in the CFP, you're going into the middle of January long after that window's closed. So you're now asking that coach to put together a roster that's going to lose a lot of bodies. So that's where Nick Saban comes into play, because he can hit the ground running long before, like, Kurt Cignetti, if he didn't re-sign with IU, or even if you look at some of the other top echelon names. I will say this. I would say if we're looking at it, I think Saban is the outside this college football realm guy you look at. I like the Fran Brown idea that Josh brought up, because if Fran Brown does take the job at Penn State, Syracuse has a very easy phone call that they can make to Columbus to bring over their defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, who lives 30 minutes outside of Syracuse campus.
Look at me. And I just made Ohio State weaker. I'm a great hire. Penn State, hire me.
There you go. Hire Josh, Penn State. That's who you should hire.
Yes.
This is gonna be something we're gonna be talking about. You know, this isn't going away until they hire somebody. And then when they hire somebody, we're gonna see if what we think about that. But we want to get into this next segment here. And we've been doing this the last few weeks. You know, we found it to be very interesting. It's the Heisman podium every week, right? Josh, where are we ranking this right now? Because we've taken I think multiple people's Heisman rankings, top 3, and we've kind of condensed them together. This is where we're at right now.
Correct. So we have Ty Simpson on the top of the podium, Fernando Mendoza in second, and Jordan Maivia in third, Julian Sayin just on the outside in fourth. I feel like that's probably the 4-man race. It's crazy that we're already talking Dante Moore out of it again after last week. We thought the game was for sure going to be the Heisman moment, but neither one of those guys had a Heisman-like game. Nobody went out there and stole it, and that's why my number 1 vote still went to Ty Simpson, because this stretch of schedule that they've been going on, Ty is just balling out. But I personally think this thing is still wide open, and it's for anyone to take. Case in point, me and Bill are going to talk about up next. There's a quarterback that is going to play Friday night that is going to have all eyes on him. If he goes out and balls, maybe he jumps up there.
Yeah. I mean, Bill, where are you leaning with this? Because, I mean, last week, you know, you were here talking about Dante Moore, Fernando Mendoza. Obviously, Mendoza's team won, right? Are you leaning Mendoza? Are you going with Simpson? Because Simpson seems to be the consensus, at least at the moment.
Yeah. So Josh, the way he sets this up, he takes an aggregate of all of our rankings. I will tell you, of the people that we polled, there is only one person who has Fernando Mendoza at number 1, and it's me. And I'm still taking Fernando Mendoza at number 1. And the reason I take that is because the big thing about the Heisman that people don't talk about, yes, you have stats. Yes, you have how they've looked on the field. But the big thing that's underrated when we talk Heisman is moments, right? Travis Hunter, his moment was he was a 2-way player. Other quarterbacks, what was their moment? Baker Mayfield, what was his moment? It was the flag plant. Fernando Mendoza's moment was going into Oregon, a place where they were 41-1 at home, a place where people counted them out all day long, and went in there and not only played well, but the big thing, after he threw that pick 6 where most quarterbacks would have crumbled, what does he do? Come right back, lead a drive down the field to win the game. That's Heisman moment. Ty Simpson hasn't quite had that moment yet, but I will tell you this. He's got a huge matchup this week against Tennessee in Bryant-Denny Stadium at 7:30. He could have that moment this weekend that could push him up there to number 1.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting race, honestly. I think I'm with Josh a little bit. I think I still lean Simpson slightly. I think he's just played a little better. Now, I think Indiana as a team, they've shocked me, to be honest. I mean, we've talked about them plenty of times, but this is definitely going to be something to watch going forward. We're going to discuss it. It's close. It's very close. It's like razor thin, in my opinion, between Simpson and Mendoza at this point. Dante Moore's done. Mateer's done. So it's going to be something to watch. But we're going to move on to our next segment, and that is the bracket for the college football playoff right now. Obviously, we still have a few weeks for the playoff, obviously. Josh, I'll let you explain the bracket a little bit.
Yep. So we got Ohio State at number 1, Miami 2, Texas A&M 3. Indiana jumped all the way to 4. A little surprised that they're not 3, since I believe we had Oregon last week at 3, but A&M has shown a lot. 8-9 matchup of Georgia Tennessee, 5-12 of Texas Tech and USF, who has now jumped in after their dominating performance on Friday night. Alabama BYU 6-11 and Ole Miss Oregon at 7-10. Team just on the outside right now are Georgia Tech and LSU. Boys, I have to ask. How do I word this correct? Okay, say it comes down to spot number 12 or number 11. LSU with 2 losses and Georgia Tech with 1 loss, but their one loss is in the ACC championship game. Will that 1-loss ACC champion get left out?
Who do they lose to? That's the real question.
The Hurricanes.
Yes. And who? So in this scenario, you're saying LSU. It's between Georgia Tech and LSU, correct?
Correct. But
who else did LSU lose to?
LSU didn't even make it to the SEC championship game because if they got 2 losses in the SEC,
no. But I'm saying, like, who was their other loss? Like, they had Ole Miss and then who? Like Alabama or something?
Alabama. Yeah, Alabama.
I think you have to give it to the Tigers because of the strength that the SEC has. Because
what if I told you Georgia Tech beat Georgia?
Sorry, repeat that.
What if I tell you Georgia Tech beats Georgia? Last game of the year.
Georgia's looked kind of shaky, to be fair. I'm not saying they're going to miss, but they've been a little shaky, to be honest.
Will says 1-loss Georgia Tech needs to be in. I think
the
person,
tough.
by the way, we're not talking about, and I wanted to wrap it around for this, is the Heisman as well. Haynes King deserves some consideration for the way he is playing and carrying that Georgia Tech team on his back because they are not where they are without him. And if they're going to beat Georgia, they're going to need him. So you want to talk about a guy who can go get that Heisman moment. He can get it versus Duke this Saturday, and then he can build on that and go get himself one versus Georgia at the end of the year. Do not sleep on those Georgia Tech team. I'm telling you. And it has nothing to do with me betting them to win the ACC or make college football playoff.
I'm sure it doesn't. Bill, in his hypothetical scenario, do you lean the LSU team with 2 losses or do you go with Georgia Tech with 1 loss?
I'm going with LSU with 2 losses. And the reason I say that is you would look at the body of work, right? In the 2 losses, let's say it's Ole Miss and it's Alabama, or it's Ole Miss and it's Texas A&M. At that point, you are looking at 2 top-tier losses. Ole Miss was 13th at the time. Alabama or Texas A&M would be top 10 at the time, versus a loss to a Georgia team or a loss in the SEC championship game, however you would want to play that. In that case, it would be a loss in the SEC championship game against a Miami team. The committee has shown a propensity to lean towards not applying what you do in the championship game to your college football playoff ranking. They're going to have it set in their mind before the championship games kick off. So if you told me that they lose to Georgia, done. If you told me they win against Georgia, for me to put them in over LSU, it's got to be convincing. I can't have 27-24 Georgia Tech. That's not going to fly. It's got to be 30-21. It's got to be 33-18. It's got to look like Georgia Tech dominates if they're going to get in. If it's a squeak by, if it's a single score game, they're not getting in over LSU.
And that's my honest fear, is that a 1-loss ACC team is going to get left out. It's just going to then push even harder for this to expand to 24 teams or 16 teams or whatever, because that's what's going to happen. Because then the ACC is going to complain yet again. And what happened the last time ACC got left out of 4, we went to 12. And if they get left out of 12, watch us magically go to 16. It's going to happen, boys. But one more question about the ACC. We have to talk about it before the pick 6 pick 'em. The Hurricanes. I'm assuming, Bill, that's the team you're talking about who can go out there and beat the Buckeyes. And I agree, because of their trenches, that is the one team that I think could cause problems. However, they don't have an easy game this Friday night. It is a home game, but they got the Cards who can light it up. So I have to ask you, Bill, we didn't have a chance to put in the pick 6 and pick them, but who are you taking in that one?
So I'm going with the Hurricanes over the Cardinals, and there's a couple big reasons why. The first one, Ruben Bain Jr., the edge rusher from Miami. He is my number 1 overall player on my big board for the 2026 NFL draft. If you told me a team took him at number 1 overall, I would not be mad at all, because at 6'3", 275 with an explosive first step like he's got, he blows off the ball. The Cardinals should be extremely concerned. They are 87th in the nation in sacks allowed with 13 going against Ruben Bain Jr. It gets worse when you look at the turnover margin. Miami is top 10. They're actually 7th in turnover margin at +6 turnovers forced. Where they can live, where they can stay alive a little bit, is the fact that they can keep pace with Miami's offense. Louisville, let's get that right. Louisville averaging 36 points a game, Miami 35.3. They are very close. It is going to be neck and neck. What concerns me the most is when this game turns one-dimensional, because Louisville ranks 113th in rushing offense. It is going to be a one-dimensional offense because Miami's top 15 in rush defense. It is going to be Miller Moss. You're going to have to drop back 40 times. At some point, the floodgates are going to open, and Ruben Bain Jr. and Akeem Mesidor and even Wesley Basainth at linebacker, those guys are going to pin their ears back, and Corey Heatherman is going to say, run it, and it's going to get ugly. I've got Miami by 6 because I think they keep it close to the first half, but in that third quarter, the floodgates are going to open on that offensive line.
Yeah, I don't trust Miller Moss anymore. After that interception he had like 2 weeks ago in Virginia, where I told you, where he's going to the ground, he throws. I don't know what he was doing. I don't trust him anymore. I can't do it.
Do either one of you agree with Will's take? Bain could enter Heisman conversation. I don't think his numbers are there.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Yeah.
He's a spectacular talent, but Heisman, I don't know. He'd have to go on like a generational type run the next few weeks. But you know, and he could do it. I'm not going to sit here and say anything is out of the realm of possibility any longer. So he could do it. But we got to get into some of these games because we have some big games coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
Game 1, the Holy War. Utah, BYU. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this for some of these games. You know, Utah's coming off that big win. Obviously, Arizona State didn't have their quarterback, but Utah's pretty good, right? This is a rivalry game where, in my opinion, nothing really matters. I don't care about stats. It's one of those games where just throw everything out the window, let them go on the field and see what happens. Bill, I'm going to start with you. Where are you going with this game?
So looking at the Holy War, this is going to be a game. This is going to be an old school smash mouth, drag them out fight, because you look at these two teams, they both rank in the bottom third in passing offense. Utah 89th, BYU 92nd, but also rank in the top half in pass defense. Utah at 11th, BYU at 17th. But they both are in the top 11 in the nation in rushing offense. BYU at 248 yards, Utah at 248, BYU at 238. The one thing that is the saving grace for me and my pick is that BYU is in the top 30 in turnover margin, sitting at +4. They run the ball. They're effective at running the ball. Utah struggles to stop the run. They've allowed 139 yards per game in the run. I'm going BYU, but it's going to be close. This is a single score game. This is probably going to be the fastest Holy War that's ever been played because these two teams just want to run the ball all afternoon long.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going with BYU too. I think in this type of a game, home field will make a difference. BYU has been impressive. I know they haven't played a lot of, top tier teams so far, but Utah's been a little up and down. I think BYU wins. Josh, you've been talking about Utah all year, all year long. Are we sweeping with BYU here, or are you going with Utah?
I'm sticking with the Utes, man. I've
Well,
been
I
on
guess
this
they get another victory in my pick.
I've been on this bandwagon. I've been on this bandwagon all year long before season kicked off, and I'm going to stick with it. This team wants that revenge versus Texas Tech. I'm still a little upset that they didn't give us the truth about Dampier being injured that week. But don't get me started on that whole ordeal. I believe the difference will be exactly that. Devin Dampier, a little bit more experienced than Bear Bashmeyer, a true freshman playing in the Holy War. Now, it's not at Utah, as you mentioned, because if it was, then I'm definitely taking the Utes. But I still think the Utes pull it out. And like you guys mentioned, it's going to be a lot of running, a lot of smack in the mouth, and I can't wait to watch it. It's a fun one that nobody really talks about because it's two schools from Utah and they're in the Big 12. But it is a very fun college football rivalry that I enjoy.
Yeah, and BYU won last year on a game-winning kick, I believe. And Utah's going to be out for blood. They weren't happy about that last year. So it's going to be a fun one. But Bill and I are going to get the win. BYU's going to win, and I'm going to gain another game on you, Josh. So just know that. Just know that it's like a slow death for you with this pickup because like you were up so big, and then I've just been slow. I think I'm like 3 or 4 games back now.
Yeah, I think it's literally 4.
Yeah, 4 games. So I was like down 10 games at one point. So here we go. But we're going to go on to the next game here. This one, very intriguing. We have Georgia Tech, who we talked about a little bit ago, taking on Duke. Now, if anyone has tuned into this show over the last few weeks, which thank you for that, make sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment below, everything, all the 9 yards. We thank everyone for their support. But if anyone's watched this, Duke is dead to me. I can't do it anymore. The theme of this show for me, I give you 2 chances. Once that second chance is over, I can't pick you anymore. I don't care what happens. Duke is dead to me. Georgia Tech's going to win this game, in my opinion. I know Duke's getting hyped up here, but Duke's passing defense is really bad, like really bad. They are ranked 116th in passing yards allowed per game. And I know Georgia Tech doesn't have the greatest passing offense, but as you talked about, Josh, Haynes King has been very good. He's going to be the deciding factor in this game for me, at least. I think he makes the plays. I think Georgia Tech stays undefeated. Josh, are you going with Georgia Tech or are you sticking with Duke?
I'm sticking with Georgia Tech. I think that first off, I don't trust Duke, as you mentioned. This is the same team that got smacked in the mouth by Illinois when Illinois went in there. And then they lost to Tulane with a running quarterback in Retzliff. Well, last time I checked, Retzliff is pretty good. Haynes King is better. So go ahead and give me Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I mean, easy. Bill, clean sweep, or are you taking the Blue Devils?
I'm going the Blue Devils.
Wow.
And here is why. Georgia Tech ranks 99th in turnover margin. They've turned the ball over in all but 2 games this season, and one of them was last week to Virginia Tech, the other one being Clemson. Yes, like you mentioned, Duke's pass defense is anemic at best. But their saving grace is the rushing defense for Georgia Tech, which is just as bad at 105th with 169 yards. You can't defend the run. You turn the ball over. By the way, you also get penalized heavily, averaging 55 penalty yards a game. That's 3 bad check marks against you. Not to mention you've got home field advantage. I'm taking the upset. I'm taking Duke, and we're not even going to have the conversation about Georgia Tech in the college football playoff because it's going to end here in Durham.
Wow. Josh, are you feeling confident with our Georgia Tech pick, or are you scared?
I still trust as long as Haynes King's healthy.
Bill messes up usually once a week. He usually goes 5-1. This This might be the one.
The problem is I need to mess up twice now. So far, we're on the opposite spectrum, and I'm only going to assume one of these weeks we're going to literally have 6 one way, 6 the other. I can't wait for that. First ever 6-0 and 0-6.
I hope, one of these weeks, if I ever tie you in this thing, Josh, like I'm literally never going to pick a thing. If I ever take the lead, I'm never changing my pick from anything you've done ever. It's just going to remain for the rest of the season. Just so you know, I'm petty like that anyway. Anyways, we're going to go on to the next game because we have some big games here. This one interests me very much. We got Tennessee and Alabama. Now, we all remember Tennessee. Right, they went to double overtime with Georgia, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, they could have won. They didn't. Bulldogs pulled it out. Now they got to go on the road. Go into Alabama. Alabama's clicking. Where are we going with this, guys? I'm going to start with Josh because you have been down on Alabama most of the year. Are you taking Alabama, or are you going with the Volunteers to pull the upset on the road?
So I went back and forth. I originally had Bama because at home, I think they've now got the longest maybe active home winning streak in college football after Washington and Oregon and Georgia all have lost. I think it's up to 15 games. And it's a revenge game. Tennessee beat them last year. But there's something about this Vols offense that makes me believe they're going to be able to outshoot Alabama this week. So I'm going to take the Vols, which is crazy because I am not high on the Vols at all. But it's just that gut feel that I think their offense, and I'm basically saying this is a shootout. And if it is going to be a shootout, I'm going to take Tennessee.
So, did you know that Tennessee ranks second to last in the SEC in scoring defense? With Arkansas being the only one below them. So they can't stop anybody. Their offense is spectacular, like actually spectacular. They're averaging 48.2 points a game, but their defense is garbage, like straight garbage. 121st in rushing success rate. I'm going to take the Tide. I can't. If this game were in Tennessee, maybe, because that offense might be able to carry him with the crowd, everything. This game is in Tuscaloosa. I don't see any way that Tennessee comes away with the win. Not with the way Alabama's clicking right now. Alabama looks really impressive. I know they barely beat Missouri, but still road win in the SEC against a top 15 team. Good win. Bill, are you going with me with the Crimson Tide, or are you backing Josh with his horrible Volunteer pick?
I am going with Crimson Tide. Just because, like you talked about,
I feel better.
Yes, like you talked about, Tennessee 104th. They're not just the second to last in the SEC, 104th in scoring defense, but it gets worse. Passing defense 123rd at 257 yards a game. Rushing defense 136 yards a game. And yes, Alabama doesn't have the rush offense. They don't have the horses, especially if Jam Miller being injured. Ty Simpson has this Alabama offense as a top 15 team. As well as you're looking Tennessee probably not going to have Jermod McCoy back. You are just asking for trouble when you can't stop a top 15 passing offense, when you allow all that scoring. And then, oh, by the way, Alabama's second in the nation in turnover margin at +9. So they force the turnovers. They sling it all over the yard, which you've shown you can't stop. I've got Alabama by 7, and I feel like it's going to be a blowout.
Alabama by at least 10. This game might be over by mid-third quarter.
Yeah.
Alabama has impressed me thoroughly, and I think they keep it going. So, sorry, Josh. I'm sorry. But, I'll gladly take up another win on this, so it's okay. This game's going to give me a headache. I can already tell. We got LSU going to play Vanderbilt. Bill, do I have hope? I don't believe I have hope based on who I think you're picking. But do I have hope, or is Vandy about to crush my hopes and dreams early in the morning on Saturday?
They're going to crush your hopes and dreams early in the morning on Saturday. I've got Vandy. And the reason I have Vandy, Vanderbilt's top 15 in the nation in sacks allowed. In sacks, excuse me. LSU top 25 in sacks allowed. This is a defense that's going to pressure Garrett Nussmeier. And when you factor that in to a Vanderbilt team that has a top 30 turnover margin, and then, oh, by the way, Vanderbilt's scoring at a top 10 rate, 43.2 points per game, whereas LSU has struggled offensively these past couple of games. They're sitting at 86th at a 25.8 scoring per game. I just don't see a world where Garrett Nussmeier stands back there and tries to keep pace with Diego Pavia and allows this defensive line to get after him, because Vanderbilt's going to get out to a double-digit lead early. They're going to get out early, and it's going to force LSU to become very one-dimensional, which they already somewhat are, being 113th in rushing offense at 115 yards a game. That's not going to get it done in the SEC. I'm going Vanderbilt by a single score because I think they'll get a late score and make it look a lot better than what it was. But this game is going to be just like Alabama, Tennessee. It's going to be over by the half.
This game, before we get to you, Josh, this game reminds me of the LSU South Carolina game last year, where going into it, we all were, kind of hyping up LSU a little bit, maybe looking at, South Carolina's like, oh, can they finally do it, right? They jump out to that big lead, as you talked about. I believe that I actually kind of agree with you, Bill. I think Vanderbilt's going to jump out to like a 10-0 lead.
Yep.
But I think LSU comes back and wins.
Oh.
LSU, for all of their flaws, everything they've been doing wrong so far, they are still somehow in this thing. They are somehow in the fight for the SEC. I don't get their offense has been horrible, but all it takes is a game or two to get things clicking and everyone can kumbaya, right? That's all we need. I think Nussmeier knows what's at stake here, and he's not going to let his final season be defined by Vanderbilt. That's not even a shot at Vanderbilt, because he still has Alabama on the schedule, right? He still has A&M on the schedule. I think LSU comes away with the win. Field goal game. Late in the fourth, LSU finally takes the lead, and they don't give it back up. I'm reluctantly going with the Tigers here, because if they don't, they might make me go a little crazy, and I have to pick the Tigers. I have to. Can't do it. I have to. Josh, where are you going? Am I gonna cry Saturday morning, or am I gonna be happy based off of your pick?
So everything I see right now says Caden Durham is back again for LSU. Yep. He did not get banged up last week. Had a solid game, 15 carries.
LSU's also, let's just point that LSU has been injured the last few weeks. They've been missing their running back. They missed their star wide receiver. So their offense also has been hit with a lot of injuries. So anyways, continue.
And that was having Caden Durham back last week. He had a solid game, 15 rushes, 70 yards. I'm sticking with LSU. Vanderbilt to me is like the way I look at Indiana, or I looked at Indiana, is the way I look at Vanderbilt. I gotta see it. I gotta see it to believe it. I gotta see him to beat some of these big dogs. Diego talks all this talk, and yes, they beat Alabama last year. And then after they beat Alabama, wasn't it they lost like 5 straight SEC games, 6 straight SEC games, and they just fell off the face of the earth? Here's their chance. They're getting one of the big dogs coming to Vandy again. Go out and win. Earn some respect. But until you do it, I got to just stick with the name brand, as cheap as it sounds. I got to stick with LSU. The talent on defense alone, and then also, like I said, being able to run the ball should help Nussmeier out, because 2 picks last week, that can't happen.
No. Vanderbilt's very good at limiting the big play. They've showed that this year. LSU, if LSU can get 1 or 2 of those, I think LSU will have this game. But the key is going to be limiting turnovers, because as you mentioned, Nussmeier has turned the ball over quite a few times this year. He needs to be a little more careful with the ball. But either way, no matter who wins this game, they have a inside track to do something. I mean, even if Vanderbilt wins, their loss is Alabama right now. Look how good Alabama looks. So it's right in front of both of these teams. It's going to be fun. I just think the Tigers are just slightly better, just based off their defense. But we'll see. We'll see on Saturday. Next up, Ole Miss, who weeks ago, after they beat my LSU Tigers, said were a fraud. Bill seemed to join me today by saying they were a fraud. They will be going to take on Georgia, who has had fraud-ish tendencies-ish. I'm not going to call them frauds because they haven't lost, but they haven't looked dominant, and that's been a problem. Usually with Georgia, they just dominate everybody. Bill, does Ole Miss have a chance in this game, or is Georgia about to show them or remind them who runs the SEC? Because Lane Kiffin was talking all this crap the last few weeks, only for his team to go put that dud out there last week. Obviously, they won, but where are you going with this, Bill?
Listen, I'm with you. Ole Miss is on fraud watch, and I say that knowing the last few teams I've said were on fraud watch, they went out and they lost that following week. Because here's the big thing: Ole Miss 111th in turnover margin, -4. They are at the bottom in turnover margin. This stat though sticks in my head every time I talk about the Bulldogs the last 3 years. In the last 3 years, in 2 score deficits, Georgia 5-3 in those games. The rest of the SEC, a combined 13% win percentage. They get down early, like they may have a chance to do against Ole Miss, because Ole Miss, you're looking at 515 yards of total offense. They get down early. The Bulldogs can come back. But considering the fact that you're looking at an Ole Miss defense that can't stop the run, a team that turns the ball over, against a Georgia team that just doesn't go away, and the fact that Ole Miss was trailing to Washington State in the third quarter last week, this is the definition of a trap game for Ole Miss. It's Georgia by 7, but if you told me it's double digits, I'm taking it.
Timeout? Wait.
No. I was clapping.
Oh, it looked like you were calling timeout.
No, I'm clapping. I'm Kirby Smart. I'm clapping.
Okay, Kirby.
Okay. I was about to say, Josh, I will look. I'll gladly take another win here, but I was about to say, even you're not that crazy to pick out.
No.
Are you? Are you picking Ole Miss? Or are you picking Georgia?
I'm going to sum this up very simple. Georgia's not losing 2 games at home in the same year. Bama already got them. Ole Miss ain't. But can we seriously talk about this? What?
I don't know.
What? And then you fumble the ball on the 1-yard line. Auburn, you had it. You had it.
We don't speak about those teams any longer, Josh. Auburn has let both of us down all year long. But all right, so Georgia's sweep. That means Ole Miss is going to win. So we'll see what happens. We got one more game we want to talk about. And this game, I mentioned Josh and I a couple weeks ago, beginning of October, we talked about our favorite games from the month of October. Like what was the one game we were looking forward to? Mine was USC taking on Notre Dame. Now, I didn't expect USC to beat Michigan last week. Sorry, Josh. But they did, and they look pretty damn impressive in doing so. Now they got to go on the road against a Fighting Irish team who a lot of people counted out after the 0-2 starts the year. They've won 4 straight. They look like they can run the table. The committee seems to believe in them because even at 0-2, they didn't take them out of the top 25. Bill, I'm going to go to Josh first because I want to hear what he has to say about this because I want to make him talk about USC after they demolished his Wolverines last week.
Sorry, I was just reminiscing not running Bryce Underwood yet again in a football game. Okay, anyway, back to what we were talking about. Oh, yeah, USC and Notre Dame. I don't know. I literally don't know because this is why I'm so torn. USC has arguably been one of my least favorite teams ever growing up. I still will remember Pete Carroll dancing on the sideline as they just destroy Michigan in the Rose Bowl, chomping on his gum with Dwayne Jarrett, I think was his wide receiver at that time. Makes me sick just thinking about it. And I don't like Notre Dame. I'll be the first to admit that. I'm a Michigan fan. But the door is so wide open right now. We obviously do the TWSN poll. Very quickly off the top of your head, where would you have Notre Dame if we did a top 25? How close are they to your top 12?
Top 12?
Yeah, how close are they?
I'd probably put them 14 because I do believe they are a very, very good team.
Okay, so they're just outside, Bill?
Right there. I'm 15. So, yeah, right outside.
That terrifies me. This 2-loss Notre Dame team is just hanging around. And that's why I want to pick USC. I just need USC.
Please pick
For the
USC.
sake of my sanity. But I'm not
Pick
going
USC.
to. Notre Dame is going to win this football game. CJ Carr is a future number 1 overall pick. I truly believe that. That kid is special. He also has Michigan blood in him. Lloyd Carr's grandson. No big deal there. Sure, it didn't steal him from us. But more importantly, Freeman just has these guys playing different. This is not a normal Notre Dame team. They had Miami beat, and they kind of let it slip away. They had A&M beat, and they let that one slip away. So 2 losses this year to arguably a top 3 and top 4 team by a total of, what was it, 4 points? Yeah, Notre Dame's going to win this one. It's going to be close. And let's just hope it doesn't come down to a 1-yard line push is all I'm saying.
I mean, they don't have Matt Leinart coming down here. So, we'll see. Bill, I'm going with you. I'm going with Notre Dame too, because I am not fully sold on this USC team. They got exposed against Illinois a couple weeks ago, in my opinion. Obviously, they came back and they beat Michigan. Good for them. If they win this game, though, Lincoln Riley deserves all the flowers because he was being talked about harshly, myself included, at the beginning of the season. It's gonna be a fun game, but it's a rivalry game, one of the better rivalries in college football. Bill, where are you going with this? Are we going clean sweep for Notre Dame, or are you picking the Trojans?
We're going clean sweep for Notre Dame, and the big reason there's the big reason is you look at these 2 passing offenses, both of them top 20 in the nation. These guys can sling the ball around the yard. Passing defense, both of them rank 101st or worst in the nation in stopping the pass, which is uncharacteristic for Notre Dame. However, you look at this USC team is going to have to cross multiple time zones. And we have seen teams going from west to east. I talked about it in the opening to the show about Oregon having to go cross country to New Jersey, USC having to go cross country to Notre Dame, to South Bend, playing in South Bend. That is a different atmosphere. The big thing, Notre Dame is top 7 in the nation in turnovers forced at +6 turnover margin. The one saving grace for USC that will keep this game close, Notre Dame, 84th in the nation in red zone conversions. USC, second best in red zone conversions allowed at only 60%. If Notre Dame gets in the 20, they've got to put points on the board. If they don't, USC will boat race the Fighting Irish by halftime.
I mean, once again, Bill brings the stats here. Because, I mean, I cannot see USC winning this game. I can't. It's one of those games where it's a rivalry game, but anytime it's in South Bend, Notre Dame just has some magic. I don't know if it's the luck of the Irish. I don't know what it is, but they do some things out there that just make them tough to beat. I'm not sure USC can do it, but if they do, I think we got to start talking about USC as a legitimate title contender if they beat Notre Dame. It's going to be interesting. Very interesting. What? You don't think so?
I don't think we can put them in title contention yet.
Are you even allowed to speak about USC after what they did to your team?
No, I should just call them daddy, honestly, after what they did to my freaking offense.
We got to get him a shirt. We got to get him a USC shirt or something. If USC wins, that's what we need to do.
No.
Okay, well, it's going to be interesting, but here's our picks for these games. It looks like I have 2 picks different than Josh. So I'm hoping I don't go 0-2. I hope I go 2-0 because then I can close the gap even more. Just creeping up like a shark, Josh. I got you. You're not going anywhere. You've literally been staying stagnant.
I'm more concerned that there's 4 different from Bill, so I know I've missed at least 3. Or we all miss Ole Miss, and we're talking about Ole Miss national championship contenders.
I mean, look, if Ole Miss beats Georgia, we're gonna have a conversation next week.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Yep.
Let's be real.
100%.
But that's gonna do it for us. Any last takeaways, things you're looking for, anything you want to talk about before we get out of here, guys?
Not that I can think of. I think we covered a lot of it. I'm just really interested to see what happens with this Penn State job because, as you mentioned, it's probably going to be the biggest job open because it's bigger than Florida, right? Even if Florida becomes open.
I'd say so. I don't know. Florida's won more recently, so that's tough.
Yeah, those two are arguably going to be the biggest ones. But hey, hopefully the UC Bearcats can keep that top 25 rank and keep it rolling. And they get Baylor next week, so we definitely will be talking about that one.
Yeah, I mean, their nice win last week. What a great win for a team. But hey, they won, so that's all that matters, right? That's all that matters. Right. They keep winning. But we want to thank everybody for tuning in here each and every week at the TWSN Tailgate Show, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Time. But once again, shout out to all my West Coast people who watch this. I got love for everybody, but specifically my West Coast people because I know it's tough to watch during work days or whatever. But subscribe to the YouTube channel, TWSN. Go to the TWSN website. We got articles coming out all day, every day, pretty much. But that's going to do it for us here at the TWSN Tailgate Show. Thank you, and we will see you next week.